January 1st, 2011. Green Island, Australia. A small wildlife park perched on a coral cay off the coast of Cairns in the far north of Queensland. A place most people pass through on a day trip. A place that, on this particular morning, has a Guinness World Records adjudicator standing at the edge of a concrete enclosure holding a measuring tape. In the enclosure is a saltwater crocodile. The tape runs from the tip of his snout to the end of his tail. The number it produces, 5.48 meters, gets written down. It is the largest measurement ever confirmed for a living crocodile in captivity. They name him the biggest crocodile in the world. They give him a record. They take their photographs. And then, nobody measures him again. He lived for another 13 years. The crocodile's name was Cassius. Named, supposedly, after Cassius Clay, the heavyweight boxer, for reasons that probably made sense to someone in 1987 when he arrived at the park. He was not born there. He was caught in the wild, in the Finniss River, south of Darwin, in the Northern Territory of Australia, 1984. A problem animal, the kind of crocodile that had graduated from eating fish to attacking cattle, from attacking cattle to attacking the motorboats that came near his territory. He had lost his front left leg somewhere along the way, part of his snout, about 15 centimeters off the end of his tail. The scars mapped decades of a life that had already been very long when someone finally decided to take him out of the river. When he was captured, the estimate for his age was somewhere between 30 and 80 years old. That range tells you something important about saltwater crocodiles. They are extremely difficult to age. You can measure a young crocodile's growth rings in its bones the way you'd read a tree. But once a crocodile reaches full adult size, that method stops working. The growth slows. The rings stop being reliable. Beyond a certain point, all you can say is, very old. After capture, Cassius was driven 3,000 kilometers across Australia by truck, roughly the distance from New York City to Denver, and eventually brought by boat to Green Island, where a crocodile hunter named George Craig had been running Marineland Melanesia since 1969. Craig had spent 18 years capturing and relocating problem crocodiles before opening the park. He had seen hundreds of them. Cassius, he said, was the biggest he had ever laid eyes on. The two of them would spend the next 37 years in the same place. George Craig and Cassius, a man and a crocodile, and a question that neither of them could answer. How big was Cassius actually going to get? There is a concept in biology called indeterminate growth. It means exactly what it sounds like. Growth that does not have a predetermined stopping point. The organism keeps getting bigger for as long as it lives, constrained not by genetics telling it to stop, but only by food availability, health, and time. Most vertebrates don't work this way. Humans reach adult size in their late teens and stop. Dogs stop. Birds stop. Even most fish, once they hit reproductive maturity, plateau. The energy that was going into growth gets redirected into reproduction, into behavior, into sustaining the body that already exists. Crocodilians were long assumed to be different. The textbook version said they had indeterminate growth, that a saltwater crocodile, given enough time and enough food, would just keep going. No ceiling, no switch. The reason Cassius was so large, the thinking went, was simply that he had lived long enough. The honest answer is that the science is more complicated than that. A 2022 study in the Anatomical Record tracking a wild American alligator over 7 years of repeated measurements, then confirming the findings through bone analysis, found evidence that at least some crocodilians may have determinate growth, that once they hit their adult size, they effectively stop. Crocodile researcher Adam Britton has argued the same, that the largest crocodiles aren't growing indefinitely, they're simply the ones that grew fastest when they were young and then plateaued at an enormous size. So which is it? The data is genuinely unsettled. Different species may behave differently. Individual animals within the same species may behave differently. What's documented is that Cassius was measured at 5.48 meters in 2011. His last measurement before that, at the time he was introduced to the park in 1987, was 5.3 meters. 24 years in captivity, well-fed, safe from competition, and he had grown 18 centimeters. 18 centimeters in 24 years. That's about the width of your hand per decade. Whether that growth continued after 2011, nobody knows. Nobody measured him. The Guinness World Records page noted, almost as an aside, that he may have grown even larger since his record was awarded, but that no one dared get close enough with a measuring tape to find out. And that particular fact, that the world's largest confirmed crocodile went unmeasured for the last 13 years of his life, is more interesting than it might sound. To understand why Cassius's size matters beyond the record books, you have to understand what a saltwater crocodile is and what it does, and how radically size changes the equation. The saltwater crocodile, Crocodilus porosus, is the largest living reptile on Earth. Males average around 14 to 17 feet. Females are smaller. The species ranges from northern Australia through Southeast Asia into India and Sri Lanka. They are not ocean animals in the way sharks are. They use saltwater, estuaries, river mouths, tidal zones. They cross open sea regularly. One tagged individual was tracked traveling 590 kilometers through open ocean in 25 days. They go where they want. A saltwater crocodile at Cassius's size, 18 feet, over a ton, has a bite force that has been measured at 3,700 pounds per square inch. That figure comes from a 17-foot specimen in a laboratory setting, recorded by Dr. Gregory Erickson at Florida State University, the highest bite force ever recorded for any living animal. And that was from a crocodile smaller than Cassius. What that number means in practice. The crocodile doesn't need to outswim its prey or chase it or wear it down. It closes its jaw and the physics are over. The prey goes where the crocodile is going. The crocodile then uses the death roll, spinning its body in the water to separate tissue from bone with a force that the animal's jaw doesn't have to generate at all. The water does the work. Small saltwater crocodiles eat insects, crustaceans, small fish. They feed often. Medium crocodiles take fish, birds, smaller reptiles. Large ones take whatever enters the water. Water buffalo, sharks, anything that crosses a river where a large saltwater crocodile is waiting. The prey list is not a fixed feature of the species. It expands with size. The bigger the animal, the larger the category of things it can kill. At Cassius's dimensions, in the wild, that category included essentially everything that shared his habitat. There is footage of Cassius being fed at Marineland, Melanesia. A keeper standing at the enclosure edge with a large fish. Cassius rising from the water to take it. The movement is slow, deliberate, unhurried. He does not need to be fast. At that size, the ambush is the whole strategy. 18 feet of animal that can stay invisible in 18 inches of murky water and then isn't invisible at all. Size in a saltwater crocodile is not just measurement, it's capability. And capability is cumulative. It compounds across decades of growth in a way that almost no other living predator replicates. Crocodile researcher Graham Webb, who has studied saltwater crocodiles across northern Australia for decades, estimated in 2023 that Cassius was approximately 120 years old. He was careful about the word approximately. The method of estimation at that age is more art than science. Growth patterns, size, time in captivity, the age at capture, combined with observed changes. Webb's own range, when Cassius was caught in 1984, was 30 to 80 years old. The 120-year figure is an extrapolation. But even at the conservative end of that range, Cassius was born before the First World War.
Gathered around the radios were cooled, frightened, even panicked by what they heard.
Orson Welles had shaken the country without knowing it was possible.
Think about what that means. The Finniss River, where Cassius spent his wild decades, flows through land that was cattle country in the early 20th century. The Northern Territory of Australia in 1910, 1920, 1930. Remote, sparsely settled. The crocodile population largely uncontacted by the kind of human pressure that would come later. Saltwater crocodiles were nearly wiped out by the middle of the 20th century through hunting and egg collection, before protections were introduced in Australia in 1971. Cassius would have lived through all of it. The hunting era, the near collapse of the population, the recovery. He was in the Finniss River, doing what saltwater crocodiles do, while the world above the waterline reorganized itself entirely. 2 world wars, the invention of aviation, the space age, nuclear weapons. He was eating fish and cattle and attending to the geometry of his territory in a river in the Northern Territory. His biology largely unchanged from the crocodilians that walked alongside non-avian dinosaurs 95 million years ago. The saltwater crocodile's lineage is ancient enough that the species existed before the extinction event that ended the dinosaurs. What has persisted across that time is the design, the low profile, the patience, the ambush. The animal that looks like it belongs on a geological timescale, because it does. When Cassius arrived at Marineland, Melanesia in 1987, George Craig was in his 50s. He spent the next 37 years feeding him, managing him, studying him. The keepers who worked alongside Craig as young adults are grandparents now. Cassius was already old when they started and was still there when they retired. The park made up a birthday for him. They chose a date, called it his birthday, celebrated it annually with large pieces of fish. They gave him a number because biology wouldn't. His 120th birthday was celebrated in 2023 with what the park's statement called a meat cake. It was, everyone acknowledged, just an estimate. But even an estimate of 120 years means something. It means Cassius had been alive longer than almost any human who has ever walked the earth reaches. It means the crocodile was old when George Craig was young. And it means that when Cassius finally stopped eating in October 2024, just 10 days after Craig retired to an assisted living home, whatever thread connected the two of them had reached its end. Cassius died on November 2nd, 2024. The necropsy, the animal equivalent of an autopsy, found no particular cause of death. No disease, no organ failure they could point to. He had been in declining health since Craig left. He stopped eating. He went still. The park's statement said he was living well beyond the years of his wild counterparts, and that his death was attributed to old age. Scientists sent samples away after his death, tissue, bone, hoping to finally pin down his age with a precision the living animal had never allowed. A number they could put in a paper. As of early 2025, those results had not been publicly released. The question of exactly how old Cassius was may yet be answered. Or the samples may yield a range, another estimate, another qualified guess. His head and skin were preserved. The thing that Cassius's death put directly in front of the scientific community is a question the living animal had been embodying for decades. If the largest saltwater crocodile ever held in captivity could not be accurately aged, what does that say about the ones nobody ever caught? The Finniss River and the rivers like it across northern Australia and Southeast Asia hold crocodiles that nobody has measured, nobody has tagged, nobody has estimated ages for. Some of them are very large. How large and for how long, the data simply isn't there. The record for the largest crocodile ever measured, the one Cassius couldn't claim, belongs to Lolong, a saltwater crocodile caught in the Philippines in 2011. Lolong measured 6.17 meters, 20 feet, 3 inches. He weighed over a ton. He died in captivity in February 2013, about 16 months after his capture, from pneumonia and the stress of confinement. But when Lolong was caught, local residents reported sightings of a crocodile larger than him still in the waterway. They set traps. They searched. They never caught anything bigger. Whether that animal existed, and whether it still does, is unknown. The largest confirmed crocodile on record is smaller than the largest reported one. And the largest reported ones are almost certainly smaller than the ones that lived in these river systems in the centuries before anyone was keeping records at all. Cassius held his 5.48-meter measurement for 13 years, without anyone verifying whether it still applied. He may have stopped growing at some point in those years. The science suggests it's possible, even likely. Or he may have kept going, slowly, by the width of a hand per decade, in an enclosure on a coral island while the world outside stopped paying attention to the tape measure. There is no way to know now. Go back to January 1st, 2011. The adjudicator with the measuring tape. The number written down. What that moment established was a ceiling, or what looked like one. The world's largest living crocodile, officially confirmed, in a cage on a coral island. Something quantified, named, recorded. The number was real, the measurement was accurate. And then the world moved on, and Cassius kept living, and nobody went back with the tape. He and George Craig spent 37 years in proximity to each other. A crocodile researcher noted that Craig was probably one of the few people on Earth who could read Cassius's behavior with any confidence, who knew the difference between a Cassius that was calm and a Cassius that was not. That kind of knowledge doesn't exist in any database or paper. It lived in Craig's experience, accumulated across 4 decades, and it ended when Craig retired. 10 days later, Cassius stopped eating. The simplest reading of that detail is that a very old animal in declining health happened to decline faster when his primary keeper changed. That is probably the accurate reading. but it is hard to put that detail in a script about a crocodile that may have been 120 years old without noticing what it suggests about what those 37 years actually were. The saltwater crocodile has no natural predators as an adult. Nothing hunts it. The only thing that ends a large, healthy saltwater crocodile is time. The slow accumulation of years in a body that is subject to them, even if biology doesn't come with a predetermined finish line. Cassius's wild contemporaries, the ones that stayed in the rivers and were never captured, lived shorter lives on average. Injury, competition, drought, starvation. The machinery of the wild that a crocodile in captivity is insulated from. Cassius was insulated, well-fed, safe, measured once, and then watched. By George Craig and by the visitors who came to look at the largest crocodile in the world for 13 more years after the last measurement was taken. He may have been still growing on the day he died. The samples sent away after his death might eventually tell us, or they might not. At the start of this video, we had a number, 5.48 meters, 18 feet, the largest crocodile in the world. Written down, certified, official. Now that you know everything that number doesn't contain, the decades before the measurement, the 13 years after it, the age that biology couldn't confirm, the river where nobody went to check for anything larger. That number looks different. It's not a ceiling, it's a snapshot. One moment of measurement in a life that was already ancient when it began, and that continued for 13 years after anyone bothered to confirm how long it had gotten. The crocodile that never stopped growing. The reason we say that isn't because we watched him grow, it's because we never watched him stop. The Finniss River still runs through the Northern Territory. The waterways of Northern Australia and Southeast Asia still hold saltwater crocodiles that nobody has measured, in populations that are still recovering from the hunting pressure of the 20th century. Some of those animals are very old. Some of them are very large. How old and how large? The data is too thin to say. The largest crocodile ever confirmed was Cassius. The largest one reported, but never caught, was bigger. The largest one that ever lived in those rivers before anyone was keeping records was almost certainly larger still. Cassius's head and skin are preserved at Marineland, Melanesia. His body is gone. The samples are somewhere in a laboratory. The number, 5.48 meters, is still in the record books. Whether he was still growing when he died is a question that the record books don't answer. And the river doesn't either.